Hey guys, TruthTech, welcome to another video. Now today guys, we're going to be taking a look at 3 different CPUs and seeing how they stack up when it comes to gaming. Now, the first CPU we're going to be taking a look at is the Core i7-6700K. The second is the Intel Core i5-6600K, and we'll be slightly touching on the Core i3-6300K because it can also be applied, all this information can also be applied to that CPU. This can also be applied to any other CPU that's rocking Intel's HD 530 integrated graphics. So without further ado, let's take a look at the benchmarks, and we'll talk about it right after. And I also like to say that if you guys want to go check it in the description, I have a performance guide from Intel themselves, so you can see all the specs and all the kind of good stuff on there. I'm not going to go read through it and all and basically go over exactly what it says in there, but if you're really interested to get down to the gritty, nitty kind of stuff, then you can go over into the description and check that out, because you won't be disappointed, because it's a lot of interesting stuff, but I don't really have time to talk about it right now. Now, yeah, let's go ahead and start off with the benchmark with Half-Life 2: The Lost Coast. Now, this game is running at 1920 by 1080, which you can expect for this kind of setup simply because of the fact that most people will not be running either a high refresh rate monitor or a 1440p monitor or 4K monitor for that fact. For the most part, these people are going to be running 1920 by 1080 or sometimes even 720, which is depressing but true, because these are more work power stations rather than being gaming stations because of the fact that they don't have a dedicated graphics card. Now, yeah, you can do some light gaming, which is what we're going to be looking at, but for the most part, they're not going to have the high-end gaming stuff. And also, if you don't have a dedicated graphics card, then even if you are planning on using this as a mainly gaming build, and you don't have a video card yet, then for the most part, you're probably not going to have a super high-end monitor when the monitor costs about as much as the build costed. You know, that's just something to keep in mind, and that's why I'm going to be focusing more on 1920 by 1080 and 720p gaming. So let's get right into it. Now, starting off with Half-Life 2: The Lost Coast again, and yeah, so this is running at max settings, and this is the average frame rate. Now, as you can see, the Core i5 and the Core i7 are both running at about 130 frames per second, which is impressive. That's really impressive. This is a 10-year-old game, so you do have to keep that in mind. But, you know, if you're looking to play some reasonably fun games, well, actually, Half-Life 2 is a ton of fun, but some reasonably good-looking games that are older, but it gives you more of a nostalgia kind of feel, and it feels great to play them, then it's definitely something to do. And again, on the top of that, on the monitor, they're not going to have a high refresh rate monitor for the most part, so having it running at 130 frames is more than capable of what you need, honestly. And how we take a look at the previous generation of CPU, you're looking at the Core i7 4790K, which is only running at about 48 frames per second, that's a huge jump between the CPUs. Now, next up, let's take a look at BioShock Infinite. Now, this is running at 1920 by 1080. It's a slightly older game, but it's definitely newer than Half-Life 2, and it's running at low settings. Now, as you can see, we're getting about 56.7 frames per second, or in the case of the i5, you're getting 55.2. Now, respectable frame rates, definitely playable, and you're not really expecting more than that. That's a really great place to be in, especially when you're looking at some of the 1400 series, which are running at about 30 frames per second or lower, which is depressing, because these guys are performing so much better, twice the amount of frames per second, which is great, and it's going to offer a really amazing, smooth experience. Yeah, it's not going to look as good as you would have a dedicated GPU, but of course, what do you expect? So if you're trying to just play some games while you're waiting for your GPU, and you want to play some more hardcore games, I'm not saying that BioShock Infinite is a hardcore game, but it's definitely more hardcore than, say, Minecraft, then you definitely will have an amazing time playing it, and you should go check it out, see what you can do. So next up is GTA 5. And yeah, GTA 5 is a hard game to run. This is running with minimum details at 1280 by 720, and yeah, so let's go take a look at these benchmarks. Now, it's basically running on close to the lowest it can run. It's not running at the lowest frame rate, but it's running on basically the lowest settings for this resolution. And as you can see, you're getting a minimum of about 15 frames, which is actually, it's exactly 15 frames for each of them, which is yeah, and it's running at an average of 80 and 78. So for the most part, it seems like, yeah, you could play it, but you know, do you want to play it? That's the question. GTA 5 is definitely the newest game on the list, and well, you know, it's a little bit harder to run than any of these other games, but definitely playable if you're okay with a low frame rate and maybe like a console-like experience, which, you know, considering how much you're paying for this system, you're probably paying about what you'd pay for a console for the system when it comes down to it, considering the fact that you can get the i5 for about $200, and just in general you could get this whole system for about $300-400. Then yeah, maybe this will be a good option instead of getting a console, which, yeah, okay, but definitely still not as good as dedicated graphics. You can see even the GeForce GTX 750, which only has a single gigabyte of VRAM, which is going to be a major drawback for playing Grand Theft Auto, because it takes a shit ton of VRAM to run this game. And I found that me running with my new GTX 1070, which has 8 gigabytes of VRAM, instead of running with my old 970, which had 3 gigabytes of VRAM, makes a huge difference. Now, next up, let's take a look at the Battlefield 4 frame rates and all that good stuff. So let's go ahead and take a look. This is just taking a look at the graphics system by itself without considering the exact GPU that it's in. Now, as you can see on 768p on low settings, you're doing okay. Yeah, you're doing really well. You're getting about 40 frames per second. So yeah, you could definitely play that at 720p ish. So yeah, not bad. Definitely playable and a very enjoyable experience. And then next up, with the 768p at high, you are running it at 21 frames per second. So yeah, not even really playable again. I mean, besides running it at 720p low, then you really don't have any other options, considering the fact that both 1080p low and 1080p high are all the other options are all below 30 frames per second. So definitely not really playable unless you're playing with 720p low, which is disappointing. But I mean, it's one of the best performers besides the newer version of it, which is the HD 540. So, you know, something to think about. So yeah, let's go to the next one, which is World of Warcraft, which is something more casual, but at the same time a lot more hardcore. So yeah, it's a lot easier to run, as you can see, and you can see you're running at 98 frames per second, and then you're also running at 97. So definitely a playable frame rate, not really 1080p high material, but definitely playable at even at high at 720p. But I definitely recommend playing at 1080p low, and you're getting almost 100 frames per second, which is amazing, and you'll have a lot of fun with that game. So yeah, tons and tons of hours of grinding if you're into that kind of game. I'm not really into World of Warcraft, but definitely something to think about. Now, next up, we have the 3D Mark Cloud Gate benchmarks. So as you can see, the HD 530 graphics coming in at 7,621, which is well, it's bad either way, but it's not bad considering that it's integrated graphics. So yeah, after we're taking a look at all the benchmarks, and what I'd have to say is that, yeah, maybe you could do some light gaming, play some CSGO, play some League of Legends, maybe you could play some single player games like BioShock again, or, you know, maybe you could play a little bit of GTA at very low settings, but I wouldn't recommend it. I don't think that this is a permanent option, not even close to a permanent option, not yet at least. to be using integrated graphics, but it's definitely an option if you don't have the money to buy a GPU immediately, but you want to start playing games because maybe you sold your console and you're ready to buy your PC, but you just don't have that $200, or maybe you have money for a GTX 970, but you don't have quite enough money for a GTX 1070, and that huge performance gap between those two cards makes it totally worth it to try to save up for that 1070, but you see a huge deal on the Skylake CPUs or something like that, then yeah, maybe this is a great option for you to play for a couple months, or maybe like a month or two, and you can kind of get a feel for PC gaming. Not a full feel, obviously, because you're not really using the full power of what's available to you, but also you'll get a great experience, and you'll be able to dip your feet basically into PC gaming without having to dive right in and take a loan out. So yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. I'm sorry if this video was a little bit rushed. I'm trying to put out more videos because I've only really put out like a single video a week, and well, I have it all summer to make videos, so I'm trying to put out a video every other day. So if you guys like that, make sure you leave a thumbs up. See you guys in the next video. Bye.